welcome back to the channel. My name's Claire. So today we're talking about sewing with disabilities. Let's get into it. So if you've been following me for any length of time, then you know that I have a condition called ME, or Chronic Fatigue Syndrome. This significantly reduces my ability to get a number of things done throughout the day. And some days I have to spend in bed all day. This can make sewing really frustrating. If you saw this video, you know that I recently announced that I won't be doing so much sewing on my channel, and that is because I suffer with chronic illness and it is too much for my body. So just to clarify, I will still be doing some sewing, but just not as much as I perhaps did do in the past. But that's by the by. A little while ago I did a video on being productive with chronic illness. If you haven't seen that, I will link it down below. Do check it out. People really liked that video because it gave a lot of tips. If you suffer with any kind of chronic illness or disability, then it may well help you as well. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that video to do as well as it did, but it is quite a while ago now, and I thought we could do an update and do a little bit more of a different take on it. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 tips that I've got. I've lived with chronic ill health for 12 years now, so I think I do have a few things to share with you. But by all means, do leave your own experiences and advice down below, because they may well help other people as well. So the first piece of advice I've got for you, and for myself as well, I need to tell myself these, I need to remind myself of these as we go along, is don't blame yourself when you can't achieve the goals you set out for yourself. Every month I'll set out a calendar, a content calendar for myself, for my two channels, in order to put down on paper the things that I want to get done, the videos I want to complete. And every single month without fail, I do not achieve half of what I set out to achieve. It can be really difficult, especially when you see other people achieving things that you yourself cannot achieve. It can be easy to talk negative to yourself, to tell yourself you're lazy, you should be doing more, etc. It's all things outside people have told anyone with chronic health, and sometimes with disabilities as well, that we should be doing more and we should help ourselves. But it's just not true. We have very limited capabilities, and we absolutely should not be talking negatively towards ourselves. We need to be kind to ourselves. Would we talk to someone else the way we talk to ourselves? That's something worth asking. And in terms of sewing, the sewing relates to me doing content creation. You know, you might want to sew a whole garment in a day, but it's just not going to be possible. So do it in little sections, and I've talked about that in previous videos. If you can just achieve half an hour a day, or half an hour 3 times a week, or whatever you can achieve, then call that a success. Don't focus on the things that you cannot achieve, and frankly, you'll just be a lot happier. Ask me how I know. The next tip I have for you follows on from the first tip in some ways, and that is, don't follow people on social media where when you follow them, it makes you feel bad about yourself. Certainly at the beginning of when I had this channel, I would follow a lot of people who were producing garment after garment after garment, although I knew in my head that I had different capabilities to them, and actually I didn't know what was going on in their life. They might sew clothes and do nothing else for all I know, but it made me feel bad, because a little bit of me was saying, well, why can't you achieve that, Claire? Why can't you do that? In some cases I had to unfollow. If you are on Instagram, you can press mute. They will never know, but you don't unfollow them, you just don't receive their updates, and that is really, really good. And I did notice, since I did mute people who were through no fault of theirs, it was on me, but it made me feel bad when I followed them, so I unfollowed them, or I either unfollowed them or muted them, or just kept my distance, really. Even on Facebook you can mute people as well. What you don't see, you don't worry about. Clairism 2021. It is a learning process, and I'm still going through it, so I am a work in progress. It can be difficult. Sometimes we want to follow people in order to research and to find out what we want to do, what we like, what direction we want to go in. but it's a balancing act and you have to decide. Only you can decide which way you want the scales to balance. So the next tip is to set up your sewing space so it works for you. Now, I talked about this in depth on my other video, which I will link down below. I can't remember if I said that, but I will link it down below. Do watch that. And I talked about, at that point, I had my setup, so like I had my table, my fabric, my supplies all within reach, so I didn't have to keep getting up and down. You may notice things are a little different now because I really wanted to turn this room into a lounge, because that's what it is our lounge. And I've got a table over there in the corner where my sewing machine sits. I'm not going to show you because it's a right old mess over there at the moment. And this is our dining table. Not that we ever use it, but I've been doing a lot to upgrade this room. And I'm not sewing as much as I was, so it's not such an issue for me. But if you're sewing a lot, set up your space so it works for you, because you don't want to be walking backwards and forwards. You're going to save your energy and save your pain levels, your inflammation, and you will be able to achieve more that way. So the next point to share with you is to use your time wisely. I'm not sure how much this applies to disabilities. I'm sure it does. It certainly applies to chronic health, in that we can only do so much. We've only got so many spoons before our energy wears out, and we might end up in bed for a few hours, a few days, a week even. And so we need to be really sensible about our time management. Certainly with my condition, pacing is so important. And it's something I learned the hard way. I didn't like to pace in the beginning, but now I see the benefit from it, and I don't ever do anything without pacing. So say, for example, I might have a full day of work that I need to do that I know I'm never going to get through, but I have to do what I can do without causing a delayed reaction and ending up in bed for the rest of the week. So I might do an activity for 10 minutes and then have a 10-minute break, or I might sew for 20 minutes and have a 20-minute break. I might sew for half an hour and have a 5-minute break. It really depends on my individual capabilities, really. But if you do that, you might get less done, but in the long run, you'll get more done because you won't be so worn out in the days to come. So the next point to share with you goes on from that previous point, is take pride in slow sewing. And by slow sewing, I mean slow sewing. You get my drift. And I spoke about this in previous videos as well, where we're in such a rush. I think it was my 9 behaviours video that I spoke about this, but we seem to be in such a rush to create a garment as quickly as humanly possible. Don't we feel a sense of achievement if we make a garment in 2 hours? I've never done that. I don't know anyone who has, but I'm sure some people have, and they feel such a sense of achievement. But we should be taking pride in slowing down, especially where we have chronic illness or disabilities. If we speed up our sewing when we're ill, we will make mistakes. We might ruin the favourite fabric that we've only got 2 meters of, and we don't want to do that. If you take it slow, there's so many benefits of doing that. You're going to have a better garment at the end. See my other video that I mentioned to get the full details on what I mean there. No one died by sewing slowly, and no one knows unless you tell them how many hours it took you. Please, 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 if you take nothing else away from this video, take away that there is no real benefit to speeding up, making mistakes and making yourself poorly. There really isn't. So my next tip is to do a little bit when you have a little bit of energy. So you might not have been planning to do any sewing today. You might have been planning to take it easy, to just rest, maybe watch some YouTube videos. Hello. But you might have watched 3 YouTube videos and felt a little bit of energy. You might want to get up and do 10 minutes of sewing, and that's 10 minutes of sewing that you hadn't planned on. Even if it is just maybe printing off your pattern, or maybe putting your pattern together. Maybe it's choosing your fabric in your pattern. Maybe it is just sewing a neckline. If you can, if you've got a spare 10 minutes of energy and you've got the time available, why not just do it for 10 minutes? That tip's kind of a tip in with the other 2 previous tips, I also thought it really deserved its own tip as well. So the next tip is to make sure you've got good lighting in your room that you're sewing in. I have good lighting because I film videos, and that's a benefit that I use my studio lights when I'm sewing as well. And as I'm getting a bit older, I know some of you will say you're so young, but I am 46 now and my eyesight is going. I've got my readers here and I do need them, particularly when I'm threading a needle, and I need good lighting. Good lighting will mean you're not straining your eyes, and that might reduce your likelihood of getting headaches and migraines and needing to lay down and rest again. Also, if you've got good lighting, you're less likely to make mistakes, aren't you? If you're enjoying this video so far, do hit that subscribe button down below, give me a like. We know YouTube loves it and so do I, and that would be really supportive to my channel, so thank you. So the next tip to share with you is to sew more than one pattern at a time. Sometimes I think it gets a bit confusing. My brain fog will not allow me always to work on more than one pattern at a time. But I'm not talking about having 10 minutes on one pattern, 20 minutes on another pattern. I'm talking about one day you might want to work on a top, another day you might want to work on your trousers. The thing is, when we're chronically ill and we're sewing patterns, some parts of the pattern process are easier than others. So while sewing a side seam would be fairly easy and we wouldn't necessarily think much of it, when it comes to adding a zip, that might be a little bit overwhelming if you're having a tough day. It might be that if that happens, you can put that project aside and work on another project where you've just got an easy task on that one, and then you can chop and change depending on the kind of day you're having, really. So the next tip is to use clips rather than pins. So I'm a real advocate for using pins if you're a beginner to sewing. Often beginners are not knowing how to properly handle fabric, and when that happens your fabric can stretch out. But if you use pins, that's going to stop it happening. And also it will help keep your notches in the right place and you'll sew a better garment. However, some people with chronic health, pins are not a good idea. For me, I do use pins, but I also have essential tremor. So when I'm handling the pins, sometimes I'll prick myself totally unintentionally, but it does happen. And sometimes it's just better to have a pin where you can't hurt yourself. And so if that is you, if that's the case where you do have minor injuries when you're using pins, then perhaps consider using clips. You can get those quilters clips quite easily on Amazon. And the last tip I have for you is that when you're chronically ill or disabled, that often reduces the amount of income you can earn or the income you have, the finances you have, and you're going to be looking for budget items in sewing. In that case, look to charity shops or thrift stores to buy sheets of fabric. So people will donate their old bed sheets, you can use that, maybe their duvet covers, or some people actually donate fabric to thrift stores. Look out for all of that to get your fabric requirements. There's so many free sewing patterns these days. Check out my playlist here if you want to know about all the free sewing patterns, because I've done maybe 5, 6, maybe even 7 videos talking about free patterns. So you don't actually need to ever pay for another pattern if you don't want to. And just use the basic tools. Back in the day, in the vintage day, people had very few tools and they got by and they made great garments. So just get by on the minimum. Maybe you can get a really cheap sewing machine secondhand from the thrift store, or maybe you buy it new but you buy one with only a few stitches, so maybe a straight and a zigzag stitch and a buttonhole. That would do you. It's working smarter with your finances, not having a harder time buying things when you're chronically ill, because that's just going to add extra stress to your life that you just don't need when you're dealing with other things. So I hope you enjoyed those 10 tips and you found some benefit from this video. Do let me know down below which was your favourite tip. Let us know your advice, because your advice will really help other people. Even if they don't comment back, you may well help people and it could change their life potentially. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you got real value out of this video, do consider purchasing a coffee for me. This supports my channel and helps me to earn a living. Until next time, happy sewing. Bye for now.